Hey everyone, welcome to the world of way too many games to play right here on Invisible Walls, episode 228 on GameTrailers.com. Really going to dispense with the pleasantries this week. There's just too much to get to, too many games to talk about, and we can't really shuffle any into next week because next week there's going to be even more games. So let's just jump straight to it. This week, Ryan Stevens is here.
No pleasantries, so fuck you.
None, yeah. Daniel Bloodworth is on the panel.
Yeah, well, I'm in the hot seat at least.
Right? Yeah, actually today we're going to be shifting a lot of people in and out because we have so many games to talk about. Different people review different games. So yeah, Bloodworth's seat will be shuffling in and out a good bit today. And the trooper, Marcus Beer, pinched nerve in the neck, in severe pain, still here for you guys on Invisible Walls.
Pleasantries, my ass. Did you not watch it? Oh, you don't remember last week's show?
What do you mean?
Our pleasantries were suspended. I mean, you know, we went at it hammer and tongs, but we got nothing but love for each other. It's good that we disagree. So to everybody who calls him names or calls me names, suck it.
Yeah.
There you go. There go the pleasantries.
Yeah, it's a show about video games.
This is a very abrasive episode, so stay tuned.
I'm a little constipated as well, so I'm really in a bad mood.
Yeah, I do find it funny. Some people think that like if we get in heated discussions on the show that we like dislike each other or whatever. It's just our jobs to create an interesting video game show, and altering viewpoints make for an interesting show, and that's the bottom line.
The only one who really gets violent if you disagree with him is him.
I don't think I've ever seen Bloodworth violent in any way, shape, or form, and I hope I never do. All right, so let's move on. The first game we're going to talk about today is Forza Horizon. Just kind of a little behind-the-scenes note here. We received the game midday Monday. The embargo, while you're seeing this on Friday, the embargo was last night at midnight. In all honesty, we just did not have enough time to get the review done. I can say firsthand, I've watched Bloodworth try to plow through this game for the last 4 days straight, nonstop. He has not got to a place where he can review it yet. So we have brought him on the show to kind of share his experiences with the game before he gives you his final review. Bloodworth, obviously a lot different than the prior Forzas, or is it? Is it still kind of have its foot in that sim world a little bit, or is it really a true departure from what we're used to?
It's kind of both, and that's kind of the funny thing when I interviewed Dan Greenewalt of Turn 10 about a month ago. Like he, like one of the first things he said is like, "Is it an arcade? Is it a sim?" Yes. But what it basically amounts to is this new team, Playground Games in the UK, who kind of like absorbed a lot of those guys that got laid off from BlackRock and Bizarre Creations and teams like that. They kind of went to Turn 10 and they pitched a game, and so they're designing their own game with some of the Forza technology and features in it. And so what you have is a game that kind of takes a little bit of everything. You've got like an open world that you can go out and explore and find things with street races, but then you also have spots for circuit races, and then you have these other. Somebody really likes the idea of racing aircraft. I have done like 6 or 7 races against different aircraft.
That seems like fun, though.
That's a Top Gear challenge.
Yeah,
That was actually a Top Gear
was.
challenge where they raced a jet fighter around the track and
I've
lost.
seen it multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because like I liked it at first, but now I'm like, you could have done
back
some
to the
other
well.
things too.
Do they have like at least cool ones where you've got a chance of winning where you're up against the Orville Wright, Orville Wright's paper plane?
You race a hot air balloon. I don't know how you're supposed to lose that race.
Did you?
No?
Good.
Bloodworth doesn't lose a lot of races. He's
Oh
pretty
my
good at
God.
driving
You're
games,
watching him
man.
play multiplayer.
He's a beast.
You destroyed.
You raced the hot air balloon
Yeah.
on
Oh, and
the
that's
penny
the thing
farthing.
too. Like multiplayer. It seems to be like anyone that's not doing a straight up sim now has got these multiplayer modes, and they do a pretty good job with them in this. They've got, in addition to races, they have they have like a tag mode that they call King, and Infected, of course, and those. Both they have areas on the map that are kind of designed for those, and actually I really appreciate those maps because there's a lot of places where you can kind of like do a quick juke to the side and like fake people out or run people between trees and things like that, and there's one where you're like racing across a golf course, and if you take your speed too much, everyone just starts flipping all over the place. And
Sounds like fun.
yeah, they really do a good job with those, and
Cat and mouse.
Yeah, Cat and Mouse is one of Ryan's favorites.
And I love that it's in like every racing game now.
You always love that mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about this earlier. It's just kind of funny how like you always expect deathmatch and capture the flag to be in like first-person shooters, and now these games that even are kind of sim-like, you know, have these fun kind of ult modes instead of just racing versus someone else for multiplayer. I think it's a really good step in the direction for the genre in general.
So this was the franchise that had the Top Gear tie-in, wasn't it?
Yeah, the last main game Forza game did. This one doesn't have any kind of Top Gear influence or anything.
Which
like
is a shame, because honestly, Jeremy Clarkson commentating as I
He is funny.
drive, that would just be perfect.
But it also sounds like maybe they realized we don't necessarily need to pay for that Top Gear license to still have that Top Gear element in it. I mean, with the plane races and the hot air balloon.
Yeah, I
race.
mean, a lot of that was just, Forza 4 was a lot more focused on like the premium look at the car and things like that. And this, the element that they have of that is what they call barn finds. And so there'll be a radio message or whatever. They'll come in and say like, we heard about this cool barn find on this part of the map. And so they'll put a circle on your map that's a pretty wide area, and then you search those roads and areas around there to find where the car is hidden.
And it's in a barn?
Yeah, it's an old, rusted, beat-up version of that car in a barn, and when you find it, then the mechanic takes it back to a shop, and then he'll call you when it's restored and ready to drive.
And is there a farmer doing something to an animal as well?
It's not Wales.
I'm just saying it's a British company, you never know.
But and there are like some decoy barns out there
Not to you,
too,
to him.
to kind of throw you off the scent.
Decoy barns, right? Fuck! Only cows, no car.
This is a dairy.
But there's nice old rare cars, old Jaguars and stuff like that. Handling-wise, it really is in between. It's kind of like dirt, but it's it doesn't feel like dirt. It has more of a.
There's no off-road, right?
There is off-road.
There is off-road.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another thing. Like they've got off-road races, they've got street races, they've got guys driving around that you can challenge. But yeah, handling-wise, it's that really like kind of hard to describe middle ground to where it's not really arcadey. There's not boost or like crazy like
And your
long
car isn't like
drifts around.
glued to the road.
Right, but at the same time, it's not as hardcore as like a normal Forza game. Even if you turn all the assists off. Like I've been driving around for most of the game with traction control and ABS turned off.
Wow.
In like a normal Forza game, I would probably turn those off once in a while when I want to like test my skills.
But leave it on if you're trying to progress through the game.
Yeah.
Now, how does the open world work in the game? How do you set up races? How does the whole structure play out?
So in single player, they kind of have you on training wheels for a little while. They kind of progress you through like, okay, this is this kind of event, this is that kind of event. Then some guys like, hey, I got some street races over here, come over here. But then once you, it's all centered around this music festival, and they have a lot of big name artists and stuff on the radios. They have 3 radio stations, and so the idea is that you're actually competing in this festival. And once you get through a certain amount of races, then you'll raise up to the next wristband level. They have different colored wristbands, and each one has more and more races. So like I think a blue wristband has like 6 or 8 races, and then the pink one has like 9 or 10.
Starts to multiply.
Is there actually any music in it? I mean, do you actually
you just said there are 3 radio stations.
But I mean, no, as in like. Do you get to go to this festival, or is it just the
festival is there, but you don't like stand and watch a stage. But you can
you
drive
through people?
You can drive through spots where there's like Ferris wheels and stuff like that, and you can see the stage with all the lights going. And there's also the main hub with the paint and garage and all that stuff. You could actually like drive from station to station, or you can just go to the map and pick them.
Station to station.
They also have like outposts that are kind of like your fast travel points throughout the map, and it's kind of weird that when you first find an outpost, it costs like 10,000 credits to use that as fast travel, but each one of them has different challenges for like speed and taking photos and doing skill stunts, and so for each one of those you complete, you get a discount on fast travel for that station.
Now, Daniel, who would you recommend this game for? I mean, do you think Forza fans are going to like this game, or do you think that people who kind of stray more towards the arcade-type racers are going to enjoy it more?
I think Forza fans are going to be a little split on this because, like I said, you can't go like as full simulation as you would in a typical Forza game. But I also think that there will be a lot of people that like it, especially people that have liked the Playground games and want like a better spot, to be able to play those. I think with, like what we're talking about with some of those old cars, it's great to be able to like just get out on the road and drive through some scenery. And the other thing is that you can, I didn't talk about this before, but you can do like a free roam, multiplayer free roam, and do up to 8 players like that. And there's all these challenges throughout the map. Some of them are just like drive from here to here in a certain kind of car, from like between sunrise and sunset. And then others are kind of more like Burnout Paradise, where you have to get like a whole group of guys together, and everyone has to get through a speed trap above a certain speed within a set time. So, we were
cooperative stuff.
Yeah, and those co-op challenges have been pretty tough. Like we get everyone grouped together and like, all right, we're gonna go for it. And then one guy, maybe hits a wall or something.
Right.
Like, oh man.
That stuff can be pretty frustrating.
But if the rewards are there if you do it. You get like 1 million credits for getting 8 people through that one speed trap. And then, speaking of rewards, leveling up doesn't really do anything for your car or anything like that. But every time you level up in multiplayer, there's like a slot machine, and you can win a car or win a bunch of credits and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun.
Now, when is our review going to be up? Monday, Tuesday?
I would say Monday at the latest.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, if I can really plow through things today, it might be up around the time you're watching Invisible Walls. But
Wow.
I would say for sure I'll be able to get it up on Monday.
All right, so keep an eye out for it coming to the site very soon.
I am pleased to report that the battle at sea goes well, War Chief. Our forces report decisive victories off the coasts of Daenerys and Tol Barad.
All right, next we're going to talk about World of Warcraft, Mists of Pandaria. Pandaria?
Tomato.
Right.
Nomergon, Nomeregan.
You're probably wondering why we're talking about this game now. It's been out for a little bit, but with our MMO reviews, we tend to do kind of a launch report to give our initial impressions, and then we really play the crap out of the game before we ever issue our full review. Patrick has been grinding along in this game now for a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
It's been out for like 2.5, so almost 3.
And we got it, half a week before it came out, but we couldn't do anything anyway.
We got an early copy, but it's not like you can go on and start playing. You got to wait for the servers.
So, obviously our review is up. You gave it a pretty high score. My big question is, how big of a departure is this from what had come before? Because it seems like every time they put out one of these big expansions, it drastically changes the core of the game, and to the detriment, in a lot of cases, of the fans.
Yeah. I heard a comment about it, and I think it is pretty true, that the past expansions have felt like actual events. You kind of knew what the stakes were going in. The Lich King was a huge villain in the original Warcraft series, so it's kind of like, oh man, I'm really gonna have to gear up and fight this guy. Fighting Illidan, the Cataclysm, where the world is basically blowing apart.
Yeah.
Like these were actual events. But then when you think about Pandaria, that's the only one that kind of sticks out. Oh, it's an expansion. It's not quite an event.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a lot of people were thinking when they first heard about this game, and myself included. I came into the game with every intention not to have fun at all.
Why is that?
I mean, he's
playing Guild Wars now.
I've played a lot of MMOs.
Tasting the
and
forbidden fruit.
That's an interesting angle, though, having just played Guild Wars.
Yeah.
Is that really
And Terra, and the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Well, I think Guild Wars in particular, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I mean, this is the first World of Warcraft expansion that I didn't have ready installed on my machine, waiting for the second the servers went up. Lich King I thought was great. Cataclysm was, like you said, they were events. This one just feels like they're turning, they're basically, all right, this is World of Warcraft. We've made a shitload of money. Let's just open this up now to the Disney Channel, and perhaps we'll go off and work on WoW 2, and we'll announce that in 18 months' time. And this is just
18 years' time.
Right. Here's the thing, though. Even though I came into it with every intention not to have fun, not to really try to extend my stay.
Not the right way to approach a
He's
review.
me. But
I failed.
here's the thing, though. Like, I'm a longtime WoW player, and after a point, it's much more than a game. Like, it sounds so cliche, but it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah, like every time I pick up WoW again, as an expansion comes out, it just makes me think about all the time I've spent with it.
Do you get scared that you might get sucked back in and go back to that old lifestyle?
No.
No? You know you're over it at this point?
Yeah.
But the thing is, even though I say all these things, I mean, I can confidently say that this is probably one of the best expansions that the series has had.
Is this is better than Lich King?
My personal favorite is Lich King still, but I think just if you look at it objectively, it has some of the best features it's done so far in the game. It's a lot simpler, not necessarily easier, but more streamlined to pick up, which kind of takes away all the confusion, all the clutter that it's built up over the past few years. And really, I think it's probably the most concisely put together version of WoW we've seen yet. But the problem is, it goes back to what you're bringing up with games like Guild Wars, with Terra, how it changes up action.
Yeah, watching you do combat after, I put a bunch of hours in the Guild Wars, but watching you just stand there and hit your numbers for the most part.
Yeah. Like going back to
seems very old.
Yeah, going back to what you guys said, even though it is objectively one of the best versions of WoW yet, it's still WoW. Look at it.
It's starting to get left in the dust a little bit.
Yeah,
although it's taken them a lot longer than I think we all anticipated.
Well, that's
right?
because art's imitating art. Old Republic, other than its narrative structure, is Warcraft.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings Online was pretty much Warcraft. Like the vast majority of these.
Well, that's
use
why
that
I would keep
archetype.
trying them, and I'd play them for like a day, and I'd be like, "This is the same shit."
It's funny because it's funny seeing.
I am, yeah.
It's funny going off of what Patrick said, because a lot of people, like when you were talking about how like Burning Crusade or Cataclysm or Lich King felt like events, that's really cool, but like people are just going to buy the content anyway half the time. And it's funny that this time it was kind of like the pandas are pandering, and that's not even a pun. I mean, that really is like, oh, we finally put the Pandarians in from that hidden Warcraft 3 map or whatever. But it's like, but objectively, I totally see what you're saying. It's like we've added the new zone, par for the course. Added a new race. Oh, we don't do that often.
Yeah.
Added a new class. Death Knight, kind of a new class. I mean, I know it is, but you can only play it from an advanced level. They have never added a new class, as far as I'm concerned.
Not since Death Knight, yeah.
But I kind of give Death Knight maybe a fail on that, just since it's only later content.
Sure.
So I mean, Pokemon battles.
Which is actually surprisingly good.
I think they probably had some fans, but it's funny because it hits the checklist, and maybe I keep thinking when you're like, oh, and now there's a panda continent. It reminds me of like season 2 of Pee-wee's Playhouse when they moved the teepee and Flory's there. It's like, you've been there the entire time? And
That's an awesome reference.
Teepee was on top of me. But it's funny because it seems like this kind of mixed bag where they are trying to give everything, but they're kind of maybe missing that edge. And let's be honest, the game's
8
years old.
Pretty old, yeah.
Yeah. And that combat
It's
is
starting to show it in the visuals as well. That engine
yeah.
at this point is really starting to look a little long in the tooth.
It is. I mean, I think that just harkens back to what it's trying to do as a whole.
They do a good job with it, like as far as using the art style and maximizing the potential of the engine, but it's still starting to look dated.
I mean, it works. It works on the older PCs, and so I mean, again, this is part of my theory that this is they're trying to expand the audience down to the free-to-play people. I do find it interesting that they did base an entire expansion pack around characters that Rob Pardo has admitted went in as a fucking April Fool's joke.
It was more of an Easter egg than an April Fool's.
He actually, he said it was an April Fool's. He was interviewed about 3-4 weeks ago, and he said that they put the Pandarans in the original, in the original game, because as an April Fool's.
Well, I mean, there's the movies Kung Fu Panda, and like. It seems to me they could have maybe been a little
Easter
more
sometimes
original.
happens in April.
They did. I mean, admittedly, the characters did predate Kung Fu Panda, which came along. And I've been guilty of calling it Kung Fu Panda for the longest time. Yeah. Maybe the person who wrote Kung Fu Panda was a Warcraft 3 fan. I just feel this is, I have no inclination to go back to WoW. I mean, I'm enjoying Guild Wars too much. I'm enjoying what they've done with the combat and how that works. And I think it's about. I mean, Blizzard are 2-0 this year.
Yeah, and Blizzard usually only puts out one thing a year.
Yeah, I mean, normally they hit it out of the park.
God.
I mean, maybe it's a smart thing they didn't have BlizzCon to have a lot of people beating them up.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being a little worried for Torchlight 2, but I think Torchlight 2 is basking in the sun of the disappointment that some people are having with Diablo 3.
Yeah. Torchlight 2 is way more fun. And look, again,
Diablo is still a fun game. I just want to say that it just has some issues.
Yeah.
We've all got a lot of love for Blizzard, and I'm hoping that perhaps they just take a step back and have something big for us next year.
Blizzard Dota.
Patrick, here's the big question, though. They've lost a lot of subscribers over the last 18 months. They're bleeding users.
the sales aren't as huge as Cataclysms were.
Right. And so to the people out there who have stopped playing World of Warcraft, kind of like you,
Yeah.
They still sold 2 million. I think it's just under 2 million.
I'm
of
sure it's going
Pandara.
to do great.
Yeah.
But to those people out there who have stopped playing, or as maybe you described, beat your addiction, or changed their lifestyle, so to speak.
A lifestyle change.
I went through the 12-step program.
Now, you had to play it because it's your job, and you had to.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is good enough that the people out there who have maybe stopped playing should come back and try it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I best say it in the end of my review when ultimately it's going to come down to something personal and irrational, because I know for a lot of people, WoW does bring back a lot of good memories, a lot of cool guild moments, a lot of, fun exploring a world. And I think that Pandaria brings a lot of that back. It's really well put together. The questing is fun. It does some really unique things. And just the world is built in a really cool way that feels grandiose, in the way that the best MMOs are. The thing is, though, there are people like me, too, where even though we could look at this content and say it looks great, you just might not have the passion for it anymore. And more than any other game, Warcraft really does kind of
needs that.
demands
Yeah.
more than just you wanting to have fun. It takes time. It takes effort.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
It's what? It's a $30 expansion, or is it 40?
Honestly, I can't
Okay.
remember.
Well, say it's a $30 expansion. For the price of 2 Pandaria expansions, you can get Guild Wars 2. What do? Do you get Pandaria? And I'll say, is it twice?
And keeping in mind, there's no subscription fee for Guild Wars 2. So once you buy it,
And
that's
look,
it.
I mean, I spent so much time playing WoW. I was the hugest WoW fan for a long time. But again, it's Guild Wars came along, and you had me sold on Guild Wars several months before it came out because of how it's evolved, and they've done something neat. And I know there are a couple of other older games that have done what Guild Wars did, but Guild Wars did it big style,
Nailed
I think.
it,
And for me, they've changed how I look at RPGs. I can't even go back to the Old Republic anymore because I feel I'm already playing in the Guild Wars 2 style.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. For people that are burnt out on kind of like the boilerplate MMO experience where, you're tired of just killing X amount of creatures and, going to this location. Yeah, I mean, Guild Wars is definitely that kind of nice change of pace for you. But then there are a lot of people, too, that are kind of like seasonal WoW players where they'll come back after a while wanting to explore the new content and wanting to get back into the grind of doing that endgame stuff, all the raiding. Like, I think it still does that very well. The thing about Guild Wars 2, though, that I did remark in the review is that it doesn't have much of an end game, which means that the experience takes place from 1 to end level. Whereas with WoW, it takes place from the end level on, just waiting for those patches to come in. So if you want to experience like a new paradigm of MMO, then Guild Wars 2 is that. But if you want to kind of commit to all the history of your characters, building these reps, building these gear loadouts, that's WoW.
So there's no money shot, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next game, I do want to say Patrick's review for Pandaria was great. Some of the best writing we've had in a review for quite a while. So even if maybe you're not interested in the game, I recommend checking out the review. Patrick did an amazing job on that script.
If you're a little WoW curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one actually final note that I just thought of. I'm obsessed with buying a new cell phone right now, and it just made me think of everything that I experienced with WoW. To me, Pandaria feels like an iPhone.
Okay.
Used to be the best of its class, uncontested.
Yeah.
But now you have the Android, right? Which all these different phones, different varieties, different flavors, that kind of do everything that the iPhone does, with maybe a little twist to it too.
Right.
So now I feel like for Warcraft to be successful, it has to participate in the MMO game again.
So
Interesting.
if the iPhone is WoW, Android is Guild Wars, I'm guessing. What's Windows Phone?
Secret World. Poor Secret World.
Oh.
I'm Central Officer Bradford. My role in this project is twofold: providing tactical support for our field operations, and keeping you briefed on the current situation.
All right, so next up, the return of a classic. We're going to talk about XCOM Enemy Unknown. We've actually brought in 2 folks because Marcus has been unable to play it due to his injuries. We brought in Justin Spear. Apparently he's injured. Justin Spear.
Yo.
And Miguel Lopez.
Hello.
Now, Justin reviewed it for us. Miguel, you've just been playing the crap out of it.
Yeah, I've been playing it for a while. Did some previews as well, so
Now,
I'm pretty familiar with it.
Do you agree with Justin's review?
Oh, sure, yeah. I think it's a great game.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What's the best part about the game, guys?
The graphic.
Graphics. You like them graphics.
I think it's maybe it's to me it's the sense that you're actually in charge of something.
It's something
And it's
big,
possible.
right?
It's possible to mess it up.
Yeah.
And when you do something good, if you plan ahead, you can actually get ahead of the curve a little bit. Do well. You feel like you've earned it. It's not like, okay, you've reached this point in the game. Now you have these weapons. You're fighting this type of enemies. If you're not ready to fight,
You're screwed.
advanced type of enemies, or they start putting aircraft in the air that you can't shoot down, you're like, shit, I need to fix that.
So can you fix it?
You
Load a
Or are
save
you
game.
just screwed and you have to start the game over?
it's possible to screw
yeah,
yourself. I think on normal, it's pretty easy. You're not going to mess yourself up on the strategic level. At the
Yeah.
higher difficulties, I think you really need to think it out a little more.
You see, what interests me most is like the fact that there's like a lot of choice and a lot of consequence. And I'm actually really curious to see what's going to happen when I do make a bad decision that
Now, how
feels
far into it
catastrophic.
are you, just so we can set up the discussion?
I've been playing probably in this is my first run through of the final game. I'm probably about 10 hours in, I'd say. So fairly well into a game, I would say, wouldn't you, Justin? Does that sound
Yeah, you
about?
sound. I mean, you're discovering psionic capability. in
Yeah,
the tube,
yeah.
so
Like,
you're
I
getting
feel like
pretty
the
far
cool
along.
shit is happening already. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm really curious to see what I can do when I get into it. When I'm backed into a corner, whether or not I can rebound from that. Like, what is your experience with that?
Well, I think on normal, it's unlikely to happen. I mean, the tactical combat also a really good thing about the game. It's really smart. It feels, like the strategic level. You feel like, okay, I'm making this decision. This is important. It's possible that it's not going to go the way I thought, and if that doesn't happen, then hey,
Can you
I
go
have
back
to
to
deal
an
with
old
it.
save?
You could do well.
You can,
unless-
As long as you're not playing
unless you
Iron
enable
Man.
Iron Man mode. Right now I'm playing Iron Man Classic difficulty, so I'm pretty stressed sometimes when I'm in the middle of a mission. But for normal, yeah, you can have geoscape saves where you can go and, if you made the wrong strategic decision, load up one of those. You can save at the beginning of a mission. You can save before you actually make a move. Although I don't think you can change the outcome of doing the same action will do the same result. But you could try it. Maybe I'll move to this space or do something else. So you can manage the difficulty like it's a PC game. You can essentially save whenever you want, and so it's on you how much you want to hold yourself accountable.
Don't you feel that that's kind of like, even without Iron Man turned on, like that's kind of against the spirit of the game, though?
Yeah, I mean,
I feel that way.
I
Well,
think
that's the way
so.
the tutorial has your dudes
adds a lot.
die.
Right.
It's trying to tell you you're going to lose people.
Yeah, and I feel like the
Get
game
over it.
also, it kind of goads you into, just by the way its mechanics work, it kind of goads you into putting people at risk. Like early scouting in a match.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of, yeah. I mean, I kind of.
People
again,
are used to having their guys live.
Well, here's the
right?
thing,
People
Yeah,
are,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
it's-
like it's a shift.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's good.
Well, you'll
though.
get situations where maybe you move a guy into a risky position and you make a shot on an alien. This alien is like threatening two of your dudes. Maybe he's about to throw a grenade that will kill two of your guys. He moves into position, takes him out. Maybe he catches a bullet for it right in the face. It's a critical hit. He's instantly dead. Nothing you can do
well, it's
about it.
called,
But you
that's
just
why
think,
they call it jumping on the
Yeah.
grenade, right?
well, you think, well, I mean, okay, he's not jumping on the grenade. He's killing a target that could possibly do
Right.
something else. So he's put himself at risk. He saved two of your guys. He dies. You think, man, that had some kind of meaning. He went out there and he took those guys out.
An act of valor.
He's dead for it, but you're like, I kind of don't want to. I kind of don't want to undo that, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of,
I
that's
can see
that's
that.
drama. That's
His name will go on the wall.
Yeah,
And
the
it's
wall.
all-
The
it's-
wall gets pretty crowded. before-
You know, it's also not that difficult to like re-up after losses. Like you're gonna lose levels. You're gonna lose like.
But what about losing like one of your studs, like the
You
guy?
reload your game if you're, if that's
If you're
your favorite
overly
dude.
attached.
Yeah.
Now, are
Because
you able to
sometimes-
do that on the console?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can.
you
You
can
can reload
save
an
load
old
whenever
save.
you
You
want.
could save
Okay.
like before a
So
turn.
the saving system's the same on PC as in.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
it's
and by the way,
totally
we did
free,
review
so
this on
you-
PC.
Yeah, I'm playing on PS3 for the classic Iron Man. I think the good thing about the game is it works really well on consoles as well as it does on
Just
PC,
as
I
well
think.
as PC.
I mean, the PC definitely, it looks a little better. Maybe it's a little smoother in
Sure.
some ways. But as far as the control interface, maybe some PC people would think it's a little bit, I don't know, not as
Simple
not as
for a
smooth or
PC
not as
game.
open, but you can do these things with a controller. You really only use the mouse in the PC version for picking exactly where your guys go. Everything else, you're hitting hotkeys, hitting commands. It's
So they
not
found
that
a good
hard.
middle ground.
It's not
This
that
is-
hard on a controller. I
th-
think
th-
it works.
This is kind of blasphemous, I know, but I kind of prefer to play it on console.
Wow.
What's you prefer to sit on your couch and be comfortable kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Yeah,
see,
but
that's
Can't
a-
blame
it's the
you
same
for that,
game.
man.
Well,
It's the same game on both
Yeah.
platforms.
I mean, if the advantage of using a mouse and keyboard is minimal, then I would plop my ass on the couch too.
You see, though, like I actually rather play games on like my PC's in my living room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and when I play PC, it means that my wife could do stuff as well without me like just.
So you have
hop-
like a wireless keyboard and stuff like that to make it work, or do you actually sit up like straight and play? in
Yeah,
your
no, I
living
have
room?
the desk is we have a
Oh,
pretty
okay.
big living room, so the desk is in there. So
Gotcha,
I don't
gotcha.
know. It's easier to share the space when I'm playing on PC, but even still, I still like the way it works on the controller more than on the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't dumb down the game, but they made it fit onto the controller.
Sure.
And they did a good job with that. For Axis did that same thing with Civ Revolution, which
Yeah.
I know, blasphemy, I know a lot of Civ fans did not like Civ Revolution.
Well,
That's a
this
good
is
game
not
as
the
well.
Revolution version of XCOM. This is
Yeah.
like, you know.
This is
it's
actually
a little-
game,
yeah, there's everything pretty much to it.
But that kind of
It's a
speaks to
little
its
different.
strengths. Like, it does have all these systems. It's not just the tactical combat. It's the base building. It's the recruiting. It's the researching. It's the selling stuff on the gray market. And the game, to me, I've only played the press demo, but I played the original XCOM, and I liked how it never felt overly micro. Like, you do have to reload, but you're not, like, caring about how much ammunition
Yeah,
you're
you don't
carrying
have
with
to
you.
manufacture,
But it-
14 ammo packs. Or
But it doesn't. But it doesn't
I
feel.
forgot to give this guy a gun.
But it doesn't feel too macro either. It's like sitting right, like, you know, it's really well balanced for all of these systems. Like, you know, there's sometimes people are going to play these games and they're going to be like, oh, base stuff. I don't like this. I only want to do the tactical combat.
But
it's
that's what
so,
I like about this game is
it's
that it
so
does have the base stuff. It makes it different than other strategy
When
games.
you
But
get
it's so
through with the
interweaving,
battle,
and
yeah,
you
you
have
wanna get back
to
to
you
base.
have to pay attention to it all, and it's all good. Like, I don't really see like a weak link
Yeah,
anywhere.
it's-
Like,
it's
even the
not-
economics.
Everything's not perfect, but you know.
Even the economic stuff isn't like boring, and they don't shove it in your face, but you still have to handle it.
Yeah, and being successful in the missions will get you, more, you won't lose funding, you'll have more money to build stuff, which, it's all connected, and it's just a really,
How
really
big is the
satisfying
game?
cycle.
How long did it take you to finish the game?
It's really hard to say because you're spending a lot of hours in tactical combat, and I didn't really time myself. If you're, reloading, that'll, change things too, but you're not gonna beat the game in under like 20 hours probably. Could be longer than that. I don't really have the most solid grasp on it, but
Serious replay value, though.
yeah, it is. The only thing, there is a lot of tactical combat because you're doing every move yourself, and passing up on a mission is almost universally a
Right,
bad
you-
idea. It's
you
not
never
like you make
wanna
a
say
strategic
no.
decision like, oh, we're going to pass on this so we can do that. It's like, you passed on it, everyone's like, fucking idiots, they're killing us, what are we doing? So people will get upset. So you kind of just have to, you have to stick it out and you have to do all these battles. So sometimes maybe you'll need a break or sometimes, but as soon as I finished on normal, I got the console version, started classic Iron Man, so.
Would you guys say this is the best strategy game the last year or two?
Certainly the one I've been most excited for, and yeah, I've been.
And now that you're playing it, it's bearing out in the actual
Yeah.
game.
And
Certainly.
it's kind of a it's
And
its
you're a
own
big
type of
strategy
game.
player, as
Yeah,
am
I
I. I'm
mean-
eventually going to play it. Just don't have time right now. But
Yeah, I think everyone that's vaguely interested in it should actually pick it up and play it. The different difficulties make it a little easier. You're not going to play on easy or normal and like totally say, "Oops, I didn't build this and this." They'll give you some facilities up front. Some things will be slightly cheaper, so you can really just play around with it, get what the game is about, and have fun.
And I honestly think this game has some universal appeal. Like, you don't have to be a strategy guy to dig this game. It's
well, they
easy enough to
kind of
get
try
into.
to sell it as an action game a little bit because it
With
kind of
the
has those
cutscenes,
cutscenes and
yeah.
everything, and a lot of the trailers make it look like it's an action game, but it's not. Obviously.
I'm just saying it could kind of be maybe a gateway game because it's not dumbed down, but it's really easy to get into. And I think that's probably the biggest step for a lot of strategy games, especially
Yeah,
turn-based stuff,
agreed.
which tends to
People
be
are
on
intimidated
PC and
by
a
it.
lot of stuff. The demo's not the best demo in the world, but I would like people to give this game a chance.
It's a pretty effective tutorial as well. I think it kind of it does a good job of blurring the line between tutorial and like the regular game. You kind of don't realize when the tutorial ends. Like, I assume you started your
These
Iron
are
Man.
things that can happen. Some guy just peeked around the corner, shot the dude in the face, he's instantly dead.
Yeah.
So that's scripted, but that can easily happen to you if you put yourself in that position.
So go support this game, I would say. If you're on the fence and maybe you've wanted to dip your toe into strategy gaming, I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that. It's also a game, I think there's a lot of heart and soul poured into this game, which I don't feel like we see a lot in video games anymore. So even if you have a slight inclination to pick this game up, I say go buy it. Support the people who make this game. They are worthy of your money. The game is worthy of your money. I think ultimately when I play it, everyone here is going to love it. You two obviously already do. I think Ryan probably has a penchant for it as well. Go pick it up.
Taken care of.
All right, so a couple weeks ago, the developers behind Resident Evil 6 came in to meet with us. They kind of pitched us on just doing a typical interview, but what we really wanted to do was a post-mortem with them where kind of every question was on the table. And they said if we did that we'd have to hold it for a couple weeks. And so here we are. We're finally at the point where we can run the footage of our interview with them. We talk about a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of the rumors that were swirling around about the Resident Evil 2 remake, etc. I also made sure to wear the same exact shirt today that I wore on the day I recorded that. Although no, I did actually. It's stupid now that I told you. I should have just let it ride. But anyway, here is our interview with the producers behind Resident Evil 6. Enjoy it.
Everyone get to the second floor! The fire's too dangerous!
All right, folks, today we have a very special treat here on Invisible Walls. Probably our most esteemed guest ever on the show. The producers of Resident Evil 6 are here to answer our questions about the game. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I know our users love the Resident Evil games. They're really excited that you came on to see us today.
はい、本当に嬉しいです。僕らもこういうチャンスを。
Yeah, we're really happy to be here. I'm glad to be able on the show and just really talk about the game and answer any questions you have.
What were some of the biggest decisions that you made in developing the game based upon fan feedback?
いろいろなポイントがあって。
Well, there were a lot of points that we took to heart when developing this game, but one thing that was really important to us was the co-op feature in this game, okay? So, as you know, you can have a partner in this game, but you don't have to play with another person. You can play single player if you desire. And we learned from RE5, the first RE game to have co-op, that there were a lot of people who just wanted to play by themselves. So we thought, okay, we need to fine-tune this AI so that it works in single player, so people don't feel like they have to play co-op, that they can still get the most out of the single player experience. So I worked on Resident Evil 5, and that was one of the things we learned after that game came out.
あとゾンビを。
And in addition to that was bringing zombies back to the franchise. I mean, personally, I wanted to see them back in the game as well, but the fans, they really wanted us to bring back zombies.
Why, with Resident Evil 5, was just the decision made to kind of change the series and make it a little more like an action game and less like survival horror, and also include co-op? Because it seems intrinsically with co-op, having another playable character there kind of takes away from the suspense of a game a little bit.
RE5 の時。ね。なんだった。
Oh, wow, this is going way back in the day. But, you know, every time we create a new Resident Evil game, we try to challenge ourselves to do something a little different. And, of course, foremost in our minds is trying to preserve the survival horror elements. But we want to see what else we can do with the series that would give players something that they would enjoy. So adding co-op, we thought, we've never done this before. This could add something new to the mix, and let's see what kind of reaction we get based off it.
5の時に正直僕らも。
Yeah, well, adding the co-op to Resident Evil 5, and like you say, it might have decreased some of the horror elements in the game, but that's something we didn't really know until after we put the game out, and we got the feedback from the fans, and then we thought, we should have done this, we should have done that. So, but I don't think having co-op in the game and survival horror are mutually exclusive, and that's why we brought it back in Resident Evil 6. And the director Sasaki-san, that's what he really wanted to do, because he felt that you can still have different types of horrific situations even though you're using co-op.
Puzzles were a big part of the early Resident Evil games. They were almost completely absent in Resident Evil 5. Now in Resident Evil 6, you brought them back a little bit, but not to the level they were way back in the day. Why have you guys moved away from puzzles in the games as much as you have over the last couple entries?
Well, I think this ties back into what the producer Hirabashi-san said about trying to appeal to as many players out there as possible with a game like this. What's interesting is after Resident Evil 5 came out and some time had passed after its release, we conducted a survey. And one of the things in the survey was how many people actually finished the game. And we were surprised to find that less than half of the people who played it actually finished it. And one of the things we found that people that prevented them from finishing the game were even the minor little puzzles that we had in that game. And now, that might be surprising, but it's a fact that a lot of people didn't like the puzzles. It prevented them from finishing the game. Now, personally, I like puzzles. I'm the creator of Zack and Wiki. I mean, so puzzles are something I like. So I believe there's a certain level of satisfaction to be gained from finding the solutions to puzzles. I really enjoy that, but I don't think puzzles are popular in the way a lot of gamers think they are. I think they're more popular with a certain type of gamer versus the general user out there. And so I had to take that in consideration when making this game. So I thought, okay, so in RE6 I can put some puzzles in, but I don't want to make them just superficially hard or just hard for the sake of being hard. But at the same time, I got to design them in a way that you still get that satisfaction from solving them, and so people feel that sense of reward from getting beyond them. Actually, the other campaigns maybe don't have that many puzzle elements to them, but if you play Ada's campaign, there's a lot of my personal puzzle styles in that campaign, so there are a lot of really challenging puzzles in that campaign for people who like them.
Ada, my favorite campaign, by the way.
Thank you very much.
It felt like older Resident Evil games, but didn't feel old. Is this the last numerical Resident Evil game that we will see on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360? And what do you anticipate being able to do with the next generation of consoles that has you really excited?
まずそのナンバリングが最後になるかどうかっていうのは
I can't give you an answer on that with any certainty. I mean, who knows what we're going to be working on next, so I can't say it's the last numbered iteration of an RE game on this generation of consoles. I think a lot of people out there who bought this generations of consoles really enjoy playing them, and they probably got at least 3 to 4 more years of life, and I'm sure there's an idea for another RE game that we could get done in that time and put out on this current generation. Of course, I have to, with the caveat of that we aren't playing anything at this point and not sure what we're going to do after following Resident Evil 6 yet. But as far as what we're looking forward to with the next generation of consoles, I'll let the director, Sasaki-san, answer that. First of all, just as from a gamer's perspective, I'm really interested in having a new experience with the game. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to the most, being able to experience something I haven't been able to experience up till now. As a creator, on that side of the table, I'd have to say, I'm looking forward to having more memory, maybe more processing power, so I wouldn't have to worry about cramming everything into the games now. So having the luxury of not having to worry about memory and issues like that would be really good for me.
Yesterday in an interview, you guys mentioned that if there was enough fan feedback, you guys would consider remaking Resident Evil 2. Would you really do that, though, in favor of making a brand new Resident Evil game, or would you hand that off to maybe another team to work on while you guys worked on the new game?
ちょっと誤解があるかもしれないんで、1個だけ正すと
First, I just need to set the record straight on what my comments were. I guess I just didn't want to flat out say that we would never remake Resident Evil 2. I don't want to have the potential for that to be 0. I just want to say that maybe there is a 1 to 2% chance that we would redo that sometime in the future. But I just didn't want to completely close the door on that idea. So that's why I said what I did. But to answer your question, if I had my druthers, I'd rather create a new Resident Evil game. I think just personally and creatively, I want a new experience, and I want to get a new RE experience into the hands of the gamers out there. So for me, personally, a new RE game is where I would want to go.
I would prefer you do that as well.
Thank you.
And then this question is for both of you guys. Other than Resident Evil 6, what is your favorite Resident Evil game and why?
僕はバイ4
For me, it would be Resident Evil 4. Well, actually, if I can, I have 2 favorites. Resident Evil 4 and the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1. And if I may expand on why I like both of those games. First of all, for Resident Evil 1, the remake, that was the first game I worked on when I joined Capcom. So,
great job.
You know, just being able to see how they really translated the core concepts of what made Resident Evil great into that version of the game, and trying to, you know, with the visuals and everything that was good about that game, and bringing it over to another system and updating it. I just thought that was really well done. And then with RE4, I think they took what was great about the Resident Evil franchise and then brought it to the next level. They really challenged themselves to try and create something new. And so I think both of those games have the quintessential qualities that are what you think of when you think of Resident Evil game. For me, it's the first Resident Evil game. When I joined Capcom in 1995, the person sitting at the desk next to me, he was play testing through Resident Evil 1, and I'll just never forget just how shocking it was just to see that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it.
I'll cover my eyes and you hide. You have time? Mother's busy talking to that nasty old spy master.
All right, so we finally reached the final game of the episode. This episode is a beast, by the way. 228 will not be forgotten very quickly. The last game of the show is Dishonored. Ryan Stevens reviewed Dishonored for us.
I thought I was going to be talking about Worms Revolution. Oh, okay.
Another game that we love. Dishonored may be a little bit of a disappointment. I know it picked up some Best of E3 awards from some sites out there. Still a great game, obviously, but maybe a little disappointing.
Yeah, and I'm curious, how much have you actually played Marcus, at this point?
Unfortunately, I'm only a couple of hours in.
Okay. Because I know you did actually get to dabble with that one, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
Dishonored is a great game. It's just, it's got a couple of rough edges. And, mechanically, it's really good. It lets you do a lot of stuff from the get-go. Not too much at the actual offset, but pretty rapidly in. And it's able to do things that other games have kind of always promised but don't always deliver on, where it's like you can play a multitude of ways. You actually can here. And it kind of has a, it kind of bends to the stealth side. You're going to be careful. Things are very lethal. Like, you can only take so many hits. There's no regenerating health. You can, gobble up a potion if you want to regenerate health, which gives you the kind of BioShock, people have been doing comparisons to BioShock and Thief and Deus Ex, and those are all accurate. There's no real, no, it's not like those games. It's a lot like those games. But its own movesets that it decided to put in does create its own beast. And I think the strongest mechanic is its blink mechanic, which you have to get.
Yes.
And you've played it. And they give it to you right off the offset, and it flips the script on first-person games. Like, even if you've played Mirror's Edge or... I can't even think of anything else that's really that...
to let people know, blinking is essentially teleporting. You have a cursor, you put it to a point, and you can quickly teleport to that point.
And the UI for it, it's simple, but it works really well. It will show you if you're landing, if you're going to hoist up. You can kind of estimate where you're going to go. And basically, and it doesn't take too much of your magic juice or whatnot, so you can actually rapidly do this. And it makes you have a fast stealth game. And, stealth is usually... plotting, it's waiting, and there's still elements of that, and that kind of what makes stealth, but it also means you see a guard walking, you can kind of be lurking in the shadows for a second, then just jump behind him and choke him out or stealth him.
Now, question for you. Say you're playing stealthy and you see a guard walking away. When you put the cursor on that enemy, can you select to assassinate him then, or do you have to warp to him and then hit something else?
You can chain it together.
Okay.
But that's actually it's actually a tooltip that the game has, so I mean... Yeah, but I think common sense people are going to be like already spamming the attack or the choke button, when it happens. And I played this game, for the review, I played the game in a multitude of ways. I did the first mission, I did a no-kill run, and then in a later mission, I tried to go for a not get spotted run, and I guess at one point I did get spotted, but I was ridiculously stealthy for 2 of the missions, and I was stealthy in general. I almost never had a high chaos level.
Did you enjoy playing it that way? Was it fun playing it that way?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, especially, again, with Blink, and just making use, being aware of environments. I love 3D spaces. I love Mario 64. I love getting 100 coins in a Mario 64 level. I love being a master of this space and noticing things.
Knowing where everything is. And
and it's funny because this is kind of like slightly more accurate architecture. I mean, it's still no one's houses are ever going to look like this.
Right.
But, it's like they feel like real spaces, And as opposed to like Deus Ex with all these fucking air vents you are always crawling through. This kind of steampunk pipe world makes a little more sense, and I like when games relate back to their fiction. Though I would say the game's story ended up being a little bit of a turnoff for me. When you have a game of like this caliber, you want kind of like all the pieces to kind of fall in sometimes, especially when the story is... It's a very personal story for the character you're playing as, but then all these people you assassinate, I keep waiting for them. They did a horrible thing, they killed the Empress, they conspired against her, and you keep hearing a lot of this stuff. I guess I wish a little more of the filth was right in front But the non-lethal.
So you're saying you don't have enough incentive to kill these people?
Well,
I'm just saying it felt a little milquetoast for me.
I think you. I mean, I'm going to count you then. Just go back to one thing you were saying about fast stealth.
Yeah.
And that you can do that, and that is cool. I mean, what I like to do, and I've said this before, is I like to take my time and absorb everything in. And I found that when playing it, and you let the guard walk past. If you don't jump out immediately, if you don't do the fast run, you hear so many things.
Oh yeah.
The conversations, all of a sudden it's like, wow, do I, all of a sudden maybe I was going to go for, the no kill level, but this guy does something that really makes me want to kill him. And then the flip side is maybe there is somebody you want to assassinate, and then you hear some things about them. It's like, do I really want to do that?
I think games that create those mental conundrums are great.
Well, and it gives the game a lot of replay value too, because every main target, there's a lethal and a non-lethal way to kill them. And
non-lethal way to kill them.
I'm sorry. It's the non-lethal takedown.
Worst assassin ever.
But like in my no-kill run on the first mission, this has been in a bunch of interviews, so I hope this isn't much of a spoiler. But like, the guy's basically the Pope, and you find out there's a heretics brand, and basically I tranked him with a dart, dragged him to this torture chamber, and branded his face, making him a social outcast for all time. I actually killed only one of the targets. Everyone else, I found their non-lethal ways. But if you do want to go there, like you have these cool powers, like you're summoning rats and you're possessing people in freezing time, you can go down there and totally rumble. And if you have enough healing potions, you're even with the lethality of the enemies, you can like totally rock that for a bit. So the game does let you, be a very public assassin if you want, even with its leanings towards stealth. It just becomes more of a resource management game. When I was playing ridiculously stealthy, I had maxed out ammo, I'd maxed out potions on everything. So it made the exploring a little less rewarding. I mean, I was still finding money and stuff, but there wasn't.
What do you do with the coins?
You can buy upgrades for like capacity and accuracy and stuff like that.
Improve your armor and.
I didn't see an armor one.
There's runes
maybe I didn't
coins,
find maybe I didn't find the blueprint. And then going back to the Mario 64, every level has runes, and runes you have to find them and do little side quests, and that's how you buy powers. And then bone charms, which give you passive abilities. Like you'll choke someone faster, or run faster when you're stealth. Those are the best ones I found anyway.
The things I'd say from the get-go, if you do, as a stealth game, this is really quite top-notch. From what I've played,
it's thief-esque, right? Would you say that?
I mean, yeah, the lighting stuff is I thought was a little detrimental. Like they tell you hide in the shadows, and there's giant spotlights, but you can't break these games its affordances make me think I should be able to break a lamp.
Right.
And I can't, and it's annoying.
That is pretty silly for a stealth game to not be able to bust a light bulb.
No, I did have a lot of fun with the whale oil. They're basically this game's exploding barrels, but you can also power certain things or dispower things. It's kind of a fun little aside.
You can turn on the bug zappers, right?
You can flip the polarity.
Yeah, so guys just walk
wish
through.
the AI had been a little bit better. Difficulty settings just seem to make you take more damage. I had the AI just firing through a gate at me where their bullets were dissipating in the electrical field for 5 minutes. One guy, more of a bug, more of a big game bug than an individual AI bug. A guy was just staring at me, and I'm like, oh shit, and he's like,
what up?
I'm like, stab.
Perhaps he was very short-sighted. The thing I did from the get-go was I started putting into tokens into possession. And just from the start, I mean, it obviously rewards you for taking control of the rats first off, where you can
with the little tunnels,
yeah. Because even when you're at the beginning of the Pope mission, I mean, again, this is no spoiler because once you got the heart in your hand and you can see where everything is, you can pick up a bunch of charms in that first section at the bridge.
Yeah,
by
possessing. They give you a lot of rune. There's a lot of opportunity early on to pick up runes, so you can get to powers quicker, which is a smart design choice.
Yeah, it's a very smart design choice. I mean, I gotta say, when I started playing it, the first thing it reminded me of, I mean, obviously apart from Thief and the stealth, is almost a steampunk Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
It's the same art director.
Yeah, it's got that.
See it, definitely.
And that is a great thing. I mean, obviously, while we're still waiting for Half-Life 3.
Have you met Granny Rags yet, by the way, in the first level? The old woman? She's voiced by Susan Sarandon. It's really weird.
Yeah, who else is in there?
There's some big names. It's random.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson's in there as well.
And again, one of my small critiques, and Justin can maybe talk to this a bit, the sword fighting's not bad.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
It just
Did this game finally get first-person sword
Well,
fighting
no,
right?
that's the thing. I'm a big Arcane fan. And I thought, I am one of 7 people on the planet who likes Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, but I like Dark Messiah's Might and Magic first-person melee. The melee here is fine. You did some blocking and stuff, but it feels really, it feels kind of digital to me. It's like, you know.
And the wait goes on for somebody to nail it, basically.
It's fine. It's fine, but especially going back to the AI, especially later on when the AI is, you're fighting smart guards, it's not them having good AI, it's just the computer saying, they're gonna dodge your sword swing now, and you'll see the same animation routine of them doing this sidestep like 4 times, which, you know, it just takes away from the idea of like, I'm being a skillful player. Though parrying.
You can parry and stab a guy.
That still needs really good timing, especially later on. Like early on, they're like, I'm winding up my sword. Okay, I'm gonna hit you now. But then like later on, they're like.
Some variation, right?
Oh
They'll
yeah,
do a
definitely.
few different attacks. Sometimes they'll throw in like a double attack.
Is it just me?
It's no Riddick.
Or is 2012 starting to shape up to be kind of shit?
Oh, I would agree.
I mean, look at all these games that keep coming out. None of them have really hit sort of the hype level or the expectation level. I mean, a lot of them have been good.
I would say you're not wrong. I mean, last year was a banner year.
Right.
The last 2 years, in fact, have probably been right up there. But I think this year, I mean, we're paying the price for the end of the console cycle.
Yeah.
It would have been.
2013 looks amazing, by the way.
Well, yeah, 2013 it'll be good. But I got to say, if you're a PC owner, if you're a PC gamer, and I playing this Dishonored on PC, XCOM on PC, just downloaded Retro City Rampage. Obviously, we talked about Torchlight and a bunch of other stuff that's come out the last sort of like 6 to 8 weeks.
FTL.
I mean, it's been a banner year for PC games.
Yeah. Also, the ports I think that come from console, you're seeing a little bit more care taken with those now. The publishers are actually saying
Borderlands had really good-looking diarrhea on the PC version.
Borderlands 2. I mean, I will say. I mean,
this year.
I've not played enough.
You're happy with it this year, with the games.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma and XCOM. It's like those are 2 really strong games for me.
Yeah, but I think those are also 2 kind of niche games. I mean, when we talk about stuff like this, we're talking about like the general player.
Well, I think just to sort of like wrap on Dishonored, I mean, when I get back in front of my keyboard and mouse, I am looking forward to really sort of like going through and playing it. One thing I did discover right off the bat is if you are going to do non-lethal on somebody, move the body by all means, but be careful how you move them. For example, when I hit a guard on a rooftop with a sleeping thing, he crumpled on the floor, but because the spotlight's going around, I picked him up to move him, and I moved him a little bit too close to the edge, and then my entire
Did the rats run out and eat him?
The kill. No, I put him too close to the edge, and he slid off the edge and died.
And blew it.
And my entire, no kill run was gone. But that's
You
also,
didn't kill him, the fall killed it.
Well, the fall technically
Well,
killed
the
him.
fall.
But, yeah.
But that's the other good thing. The game has its own set narrative, but since it is so multi-tiered, you're kind of making up your own like little side story. As like for me, I was like, I'm going to throw all these dead hobos into this dumpster. Yeah. And like, this is a good little part that's not going to really go anywhere. I'm glad I get to mention Invisible Walls, but it's like, one day someone's going to open that dumpster and see like 15 zombie people.
Ew. The control system does take a bit of getting used to if you go with multiple powers.
Well,
that is the one thing that whether I've been playing on the mouse and keyboard, and I tried the controller. Controller worked actually better for me with regards to switching up the powers. But it can be a little unwieldy, and it definitely takes a lot of practice.
Left trigger for shooting a bow or shooting your gun. I don't know how many times into that game, because I was playing fairly non-lethal, where I'd get my gun or my bow out, line up the shot, and then hit right trigger and my sword would just go out like I'm an idiot.
I do that. It's like, why?
I mean, that is one of that's
rewiring your brain.
Left hand, right hand thing, right?
Yeah. But that's the other problem, and I don't know if you've experienced this or if this is something I just haven't got to yet. I would like to be able, especially if I'm holding the heart in this hand, I would like to have
Not
my
the sword
ranged
be there.
weapon in
but
my...
that's one reason I elevated my complaint about the sword, because the sword is always equipped. It's always there.
I wish I could swap it out.
Be right.
And it's good. I just wish it was better. That's all.
I think this is...
Not a lot of non-lethal sorting to be done, is there? Or
that's kind of an oxymoron,
I
really.
mean, if you're trying not to kill
sword
people,
somebody, it's usually
you
lethal.
might as well just tie your right hand behind your back.
Right.
I'll be interested to come back, sort of like revisit this in a couple of weeks when obviously we'll talk about Game of Year nominees, because I like the story. I like what I've played so far. Control issues I need to sort out, but I've got a funny feeling I might like it more than Ryan, but we'll see in a couple of weeks.
Games flying under the radar, Ryan. Who should buy this game?
This is going to sound like a stupid thing to say, but like I actually had this sentence in my review and I took it out, and it was like, this is a game for people who like games. And it's the people that go to video game websites a lot. I mean, it's a
game.
I know it sounds stupid, but it's got the all the cool mechanics, all this stuff. It's got the kind of science fiction-y weird world. It's got rats that eat people. I mean, these are all selling points.
It's a little too gamey for me.
The first time,
honestly, it's a little. I'm like,
the aesthetic's really
a little
weird.
too much for me.
It's so
yeah,
hard
I'm
to
not
put,
a fan of the art style.
It's so hard to put your
just to be
finger
honest.
on it,
Of
though.
course, art is something that everyone has their own opinion of, but I'm not a fan of the look of the game.
I gotta say, it's the first time that when you're like going through the sewers at the beginning of the game and you drop one of the enemies, and you've got a swarm of rats on the floor, and you have to sort of like move them away from you, and you start tossing your enemies off, so you're dragging the rats around and watching them swarm and strip the carcass. That's cool. That is cool. I gotta say that was a shining moment for me because I'm a vicious bastard.
Welcome to my party. I don't believe you've had the pleasure.
Okay, that's it for episode 228. Hot damn, that was a good episode. Lots of big games in there. Going to be the same deal next week. A couple things we want to talk about before we go. First of all, we have a mech load of Mech Warrior Online beta codes we're going to be giving out this weekend on the Invisible Walls Twitter. You have to follow us to get the code. So if you're not following Invisible Walls on Twitter, do it now. Marcus, are you going to give some away on your personal account as well?
Not this weekend, but actually I do have a batch that I'm sticking up on my site. I've stuck some up in the forums already on my site, but I'll also be doing that next week, I think, because I'm going away this weekend to sleep and drink and lay by a pool.
Sounds good to me. Also, another thing I want to mention is we've been having, obviously, I get a lot of messages on my Twitter account about where's the MP3 version of Invisible Walls. First of all, we want to thank Devil Doll, who has taken it upon himself
Or herself.
Herself, or herself, you're right, we don't know.
Itself?
Their self.
Themselves.
To convert an MP3 version of the show for us, we really appreciate that. Starting next week, we will finally be handling it on our own. You'll be able to subscribe to the MP3 version of Invisible Walls on iTunes. Also next week, Side Mission Briefing, our other podcast, will be on iTunes as well.
God willing.
God willing. And at that point, I think everything should be good. Also, you'll be able to get our MP3 version through our RSS feed starting next week if you don't want to go to iTunes and do it that way. So finally, everything's going to be squared away for us. Really sorry about the wait, folks. Thank you for being patient. But anyway, everybody have an awesome weekend. Get out there and play some games. There's some great stuff out there. I think we just talked about 4 or 5 of them that are worth your time on this show. So enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week. Invisible Walls is up and out.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.